So today we're going to be showing a drag and drop video on movement. And so movement is a very important aspect within the game because it's the fundamental thing that is required in every single game to allow characters to move. So you can't have an indie game where a character isn't moving. It just makes the game boring and you know what can the character do apart from you using a mouse to do something? So movement is key. So we're going to name this file, I don't know, movement, and we're using drag and drop as I explained. So the reason we're using drag and drop is because it allows us to learn the code, and I'll go through it later on in this video. So we're going to go to sprites and right click it. We're going to go to create, and we're going to click on sprite. We're going to give it a name. So we're going to use SPR, which stands for sprite, and we're going to call it box. Now we're going to leave the size however we want, like that. And we're going to just make it a square, and we're going to use the color green. So to zoom in and zoom out, you can hold control and zoom in and zoom out. So I'm on a Windows computer. If you're using a MacBook or something, I'm pretty sure you can use command to do it. And you can use the middle button to drag around the viewing points and whatnot. So that's our character, okay? And we're gonna set the origin. So the origin is this point right here. And this says that when my character is in the game, his location is not in the middle, is not in the bottom, but wherever he is, the top left corner is him. So we're gonna change this to the middle center. So that's saying that if I'm standing here, my points will be right here. So that's where my location will be. Okay, so we're then going to create an object. So we go on objects, we right click, create, and it's the fifth one down. Okay, so click that. We're going to use the prefix of obj and we're going to say box. And that's his name, object box. We're then going to click on the button that says no sprite. I'm going to give it a sprite, which is the sprite box that we just created. Now, the whole idea is movement. So we can go into our room and we're going to put the object in. So here we have the box. Now, you have to have it ticked on instances. If I have it ticked on background and I go to put it, there's a problem that comes out and it's going to create a new layer. Now, we don't need a new layer, and I recommend using different layers based on, say, for instance, you're creating something uh, like a bar for people to jump on. So if you want this guy to jump on a bar, you can do it. Now, notice that if I'm in backgrounds, I can't move my character. I can't click him, I can't move him. But if I'm in instances, it shows who's in there and I can move it. Now, it's a bit boxy when you move. Now, the reason is because you have this on. Okay, so the grid doesn't allow you to move in all directions. Okay, the grid allows you to move based on the box. All right, so based on how boxy it is, you can change the setting, and that's how it will be treated. Okay, so we got our character in and we're going to just click on backgrounds. And here we're able to give it a color. I'm going to give it a brown color. And we're able to put a sprite so then we can create our own backgrounds and give it a good meaning. So let's click play and see what happens. So we got the character there, but nothing happens. Clicking buttons, nothing's going to happen. Okay, so we're going to our object. Okay, object box. And here is where all the programming happens. So the code and stuff. Now, drag and drop is far more easier than GameMaker language. However, it teaches you more if you didn't understand the language, okay? So we're going to go to the add event. And the different events have different capabilities of what they can do. So the create event is only run once. And this is usually when you want to declare a variable. So, or set gravity or set friction. So we're going to use the create event and we're going to add variables. So there are different types of variables. So for instance, assign variable is one that you can use throughout the program, okay? throughout. It's mainly just this character, unless you're calling it in, which we'll go into more details when we go through it through the game. Global variables are variables that can be used all over. So usually you use this for lives or like high score, stuff like that. So you use the global so that you can call it in different maps or different worlds. Now in this, we're going to set the variable to positive speed. So speed underscore pos. Okay, so we're going to set the speed to 4. Now instead of dragging another variable like that, we can click the button here, the plus button, and we can give it another variable. So this helps keep the code clean. So we can call this speed neg for negative, and we're going to give it a -4. Now if you right click the dark indent, I've got dark mode on, so that's why mine's this color. You can click live preview. Now this is just a preview, so as you can see, read only. And what's happening is it's showing you that, so purple are declared variables. So those are the different things that we've made. So these have no effect because we're giving it stuff. And numbers come in red. So it's our assigned variable and it does what we're telling it to do. To hold the number 4 and -4. Now we're also going to add in some friction. So if we type in here fric, we can see that set friction is here. So it says down the bottom, it applies friction to the instance's movement. Let's put it in. We're going to leave it as 0 for now. And I'll show you what it does later on. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Okay. So now we're going to go into a different event. And based on movement, we want it based on the arrow buttons that we click. So add event. And we're going to, all right, so key up means if the button's up. So if left button is not being pushed, it's going to do it. Key pressed is if I just push it once, it's going to keep looping it. Okay. Key down means I have to hold it down for it to occur. So let's do that. Now what I want to do is I want to add movement. So we can just scroll and find it. So here we want speed. Okay, set speed. Now we can do that or we can type it. Okay. And direction. Horizontal or vertical. Horizontal, think about it as like based on the horizon. The sun goes side to side, okay? So like that's the moon and the sun. They're always gonna go like that. So we're looking left to right. So horizontal is left and right. Vertical is up and down, okay? So that's one thing you need to know. Now we're gonna set this to, as I said, horizontal based on the horizon, and speed. Now we could write number 4. And it's here in this code, it's telling us that the horizontal speed, so H stands for horizontal, and it's equal to 4. Or we can say horizontal speed is equal, so if we're going left, it's got to be -4. And I'll tell you why in a few. Yeah, so instead of having -4, we can make it look cleaner by saying speed underscore negative. So that is the variable we declared in our create event of here, speed negative. Now this allows you to use so these are like constants, for instance. Although they can be changed throughout the program, we plan on keeping these the same, and it's basically the speed of the characters. So speed so the speed of the character is equal to speed negative. So if I click play now, and I click my left button, we can see that we're moving, and we're still going even though I'm not holding it down. The reason why is it does have a speed of -4, but there's nothing stopping it. So if we add friction and we say that friction is equal to 0.6, okay, let's click play and see what happens. I click it and I stop. Click it, stop. But if I hold it down, we keep going until I let go. And that's what we need. And that's why it's important to include friction, or else characters will just keep on. We're going to add more events of key down, such as key right. And every time you use an item, it comes here. Okay, set speed, direction, horizontal, speed, pos. Okay, we're making it the positive speed because, all right, so I'll show you now what I mean. Okay, so when it comes to the program, so here we have our room. Up the top corner is 0, 0. If our character is here, to get towards 0, we'll say this is 360. So he's in location 360 by 360. Okay. Now, for him to go towards 0, you have to take away. For him to go further, we'll say this is the end of the map. We'll say 1200, 1200. You need to add. Okay. To go down, you're going from 0 to 1200. You got to add. To go up from 360 to 0, you got to take away. So know it as take, plus, plus. And we're also going to understand that later on in the program, the waves of movement is based on that as well. Where 0 is here, got 90, got 180, and so on. So it's like a circle when it comes to movement, and we'll go through it later on. And this helps us when using the iRandom underscore range. So that's when we're given a range, and we've got to give it an x1 position and an x2 position. So it doesn't mean like based on the x-axis or y-axis. It means we just got to give a value. We can say 0. And for value number 2, we can say 180. And that means between 0 and 180. So it gives us a little arc type of movement. It will choose a random number and it will cause the movement. So I can move that way, I can move that way. We'll get into more details. It can become a little confusing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look and see what happens. So we've got the horizontal and we're making it positive because we're going higher. Now let's add the key up, key pressed, key down, sorry. And we're going up, okay? And we're going to add another one. Oh, actually, we're going to try something else. So I'm just going to add speed into the up, okay? Direction will be vertical, and we're going to say speed underscore neg, okay? Now, if I right click and I click duplicate event, what happens? Let's see. Right click, duplicate event. Okay, it doesn't allow it. Okay, so we'll just copy event. Can we paste it? No, alright. So we're going to go key down, down. So, alright. So up is like that, down is like that. Okay, so we're going to change that to pos. Okay, so when you go to duplicate, it gives you the option of where you want to duplicate it to. So duplicate event, and then you can say create event, and it'll like put in a create event. Okay. So let's give it a little try and see what happens. Up takes us up, down takes us down, left takes us left, right takes us right. We can hold 2 at once, so up and right, for instance. Go there, same, like we can just do a lot. Okay, so we got another problem still. When we go to the edge, we don't come back. Okay, we just go missing until we hold the right arrow to come back. So we want to add something that allows us to loop. And we're going to use another event, but we're going to go into other. And in this other, we're going to say intersect boundary, or we can just say outside room. We'll go outside room and see what happens. Now, when it comes to outside room, we want it to loop around or wrap around. Okay, we've got to put this in, and now it's pretty much done for us. Let's just click play and see what happens. So when outside room, what happens? So I'm out, now I'll go. Okay, so it's good to have it like that because, but then it looks like it jumps. See, we're jumping straight to the position. We're going all the way out, and then we're jumping. We don't want that because it's showing us that we're gone. As you can see, we got a bit left, and nothing's out yet, but then, bam, the whole thing's out. So let's change this event. We can do this by right-clicking, and we're going to change event. We're going into other, and we're going into intersect boundary. Let's see what happens now when we intersect with the boundary. Remember that our intersection is right in the middle. Let's go up. We're still touching until the middle, and then we go and we're out only halfway, and then we're fully out. See, it shows a more prestigious way of doing it, of us jumping there. However, it's showing us in a way that's useful. Okay, and we can see the code here. And say for instance, you don't understand what it's telling you. Say you don't know what the 110 is. What you can do is you can click in it. It's telling us the command move wrap requires horizontal, vertical, and margin. The one where horizontal means it's true. If I tick horizontal, 0 means false. You can write true or false, it doesn't matter. That means true, and that means it's based on the margin, based on the character where his origin is. Now I can change this to sprite, sprite underscore index. Okay, and I can say divided by 2 to give us half the sprite size. However, you can just leave it at 0 in this. Later on, you will end up using sprite index if you're doing the actual coding your way. So we've got this done, and the game shows that we're moving and we're going. However, in most scenarios, you're gonna have a scene, and in the scene, you're gonna be jumping, but then you're gonna come down. It's called gravity. So we're gonna go into our object and the create event, and we're gonna add something called gravity. Okay, set gravity force. Put that in, and we'll just leave it as 1, and you'll watch what happens. I click the debugger. We fall, and we fall. And we're falling a lot because we're looping around. Yeah, okay. Click the up arrow and see what happens. Click down and whatnot. So we're just going to stop and exit the debugger. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to right-click sprites and create. Okay. Create a sprite. And we're going to leave the size like that. Zoom out a bit. And we're going to just draw with the box full. And we're going to make it the color. We'll make it pink. Now we're just going to draw that. Now that's our sprite. Now, if we were to move it, we gotta just move it a bit there. Okay, it looks pretty much in the middle. Doesn't really matter. We're gonna give it SPR underscore, and we're gonna say that this is a wall. Okay, we'll just call it that for argument's sake. You don't really need to give it an origin, but middle center will do. But we're also gonna use something called a collision mask down here. When we click on it, let's see. It's usually on automatic, but we're going to change this to manual. Okay, so we can see the areas which are selected. If I move it like that, that means if the character touches here or here, nothing happens. But if he touches inside here, something will happen. So we want it to be this guy. Now, the reason you don't go full image, it's the full 64 by 64. We just want it to be on the character sprite. Okay, we're going to also then have to go into sprite box. and add a collision mask. Now, if you use the full image, such as the full box, you can leave it on automatic or full image, or you can go manual and say, I just want this section selected. But we're going to leave it like that. Another thing you can do is you can also change the size, the shape, such as an ellipse or whatnot. But we're going to leave it as rectangle. Okay, so we've got a sprite, and we're going to create it as an object. So, click Object, and we name it OBJ Wall. Now, the reason we give it appropriate names is so that when we use it later in programs, we understand what it is. Now, I'm going to show you what solid does and what when you don't put it as solid, what happens. Okay, I'm going to go into the room, and we're just going to put a wall. Okay, now this can be really, some people do this, but I think don't do this. So the reason why I say don't do this is you could have multiple walls. Okay, and say I wanted to select the first wall and the last wall. You click on it and then you hold onto Shift and left click, and it selects everything in between and whatnot. If you have characters in it, then it's going to screw up the program. So delete it. Click on this, okay? Create new instance layer. You leave it as instance underscore one. You notice I can't move the character, but I can still put stuff in, okay? Like so. And what we can see is I can choose things to go in, and then I can just select them all, okay? You can select from top to bottom, Control C and V, and it makes my life easier, okay? Now, there are problems with using the grid. If you wanted to put it, for instance, if I wanted to place this in the middle or something, I can't because the grid. Without the grid, I can move it in any way I want, okay? So we're just going to make it like that, and we're going to put a drop here, like this, and we're just going to paste it there. Now, another thing we can do is we can change the size of our sprite, okay? And the way we do it is with this. The edges can drag, and it doesn't pixelate or anything. I can go into this guy and I can change his size, and it does nothing. I can make him bigger if I wanted to. Or if you make a mistake, you can Control Z it, okay? Alright, so let's go into the object of the wall. And what we want to happen is we want that when the character hits it, we want something to happen. So we're going to add an event. And this is known as a collision. When one hits another is a collision. And we are currently object box. We want to collide with the wall. Now, what do we want to do? Now, as I described before, vertical is vertical is up and down. Horizontal is left to right. Now we've got gravity that is always pulling us down. So when we land on when we collide with it, we want to stop going down. So we're going to say that our vertical speed, or v speed, is then equal to 0. Okay? So this says that we're no longer going down. Okay? So let's just add the event of speed. Direction will be vertical, and it's equal to 0. Let's run it and see what happens. And I'm telling you, it's not going to work. We're going straight through. We are colliding, but we're going straight through. It's not stopping us. To an extent it is, but gravity is already set and it's going to keep happening. We're slowing down, but we're still falling. So what we also need to do is hit the solid, okay? And solid. Both of them need to be solid. Now let's see what happens. There. Now there is a problem that arises. We can't move left and right, but we can jump and whatnot, and then move like that. So a way to combat this situation is that when we go into the sprite box, we can set the collision to be a bit longer, so it gives a little space. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But then, see for instance, it's not working. We can go into this one, set this a little long as well. We'll take a look. I don't know, I don't really understand why it causes a problem. Could be because of the gravity being too strong. Alright. Yeah, so I'll fix this up quickly. Try to do it quicker. Alright, so usually to fix it, I change it to an ellipse. And set a tiny bit like that. And it usually works. Yeah, so it works now that I set it to an ellipse. And, you know, I still got to understand how to fix that. So there is a problem, okay? When we jump or click the up arrow, we're only going up a tiny bit. And we're using the command of 4 or -4 to go up. Now we're going up, but we're not going that much. So if we had a problem here, we can't jump over it. So let's just say we got the character, and then we have some spikes. Now, for the character to jump, we need to increase his height. And usually, we're going to increase it by 15, or in this case, -15, since he's going up. And the thing is, -4 and take away, we also got to like add on to the 0.6, I think it is, or 1 that we have onto the gravity. It lowers our jump height. So we're going to go into object box. We're going to go into create. We're going to add another variable. And this is going to be called jump underscore height. Now when we're jumping, it's negative, and we're going to say 15. We're going to then go into up. And we're going to change this to jump underscore height. Let's run it and see what happens. Yes, exit, and then open. We're going higher. But we can still hold it down and end up jumping so many times. Is that what we want? No, it's not. We want to be able to jump only once. So let's add another variable. And this one will be known as limit. Okay? And the value of limit will equal to 0. Well, we're going to leave it at 0 for now. And I'll tell you why. We're going to go into the up arrow and we're going to use an if statement. So the way if works is if this is true, this then happens, or else it does nothing. So let's zoom out a bit and we'll take a look. So here it's saying it's checking if variable does equal. So double equal means is equal, not it holds the value. So if variable equals 0, which we're going to change, we're going to change this to limit. If limit equals to 0, this then happens. So notice that it's empty. It says empty until I pick this up and drag it onto the side. Then it can jump. But then what I want to do is I want to update it. I'm going to say variable, and I'm going to go the name of it, which is limit, is equal to 1 then. Now you're probably thinking, if you make it a 1, how do you end up jumping again? Well, that's when we want to say, when we intersect with the wall, or the boundary, or whatnot, we're going to set our variable limit back to 0. Now let's take a look at what this does. Click up arrow and hold it, and we're not jumping again until we touch the bottom again. And this is important. Unless you want to do a double jump, it can happen. So yeah, we understand that this is a basic understanding of what's going on. Now we can just go like that and whatnot. So next game we're gonna be learning how to make it so that when you hit the boundary, instead of going on the other side, you just bounce off, and this helps you with cheating. Okay, for instance, we're gonna say, what about if you want the character to do an obstacle course and go towards the right and finish here? Okay, he can just go off the map and appear right on top and fall there. We don't want that. We want him to have to go. So by adding the event where it bounces you off the wall and back into the position, such as x times it by 1 or -1, depending on if you're here, you want it to be negative. If you're here, you want it to be positive, so you go towards the right. And this helps you to bounce off and not end up over the map. Now you can still have it to be when you go down and you fall off the map, so that you end up coming back here. You can still do that, but we'll understand this in more depth in my next video. Okay, until then, thank you for watching, and I hope this taught you something. Bye.